Hello and welcome to Grade 7 English class. This class is brought to you by Addis Ababa City Education Bureau in collaboration with Addis Media Network. I am Teacher Mastawal teaching you this class. Today's topic is taken from Unit 1 and it is Lesson 1, which is Unit 1, Lesson 1. And the topic of today's class is the simple present tense. This is the topic of today. So what is the simple present tense? When do we use it? For what situations do we use it? So we're going to talk about that in detail in this class. So what is the present tense? Or what is a tense? So in this case, the present tense is one of the four present tense forms. There are four present tense forms, and this one is one of them. And this is the first in the four forms of the present tense. They are the simple present tense, the second one, which is the present continuous tense, the third, which is the present perfect tense, and finally, we have the present perfect continuous tense. And this is the first in the four forms of the tense. The simple tense is the first in all of the three categories, which is the present, the future, and the past. So, what is the simple present tense, and in what situations do we use this tense? For example, we use it in different situations, but one of the most commonly known way of using the simple present tense is habitual, to express habitual actions. But before we talk about those ways of using the simple present tense, let us talk about its form and its formula. Its formula, or its form that we use in the simple present tense, is we have first our subject. We have our subject, we have our verb, and then we have our object. This is the most common way of, or this is the right way of using the simple present tense. Let's give an example. For example, let's have a subject here. I go, verb, to my grandparents' house every Sunday. I go to my grandparents' house every Sunday. We have our subject, go I, and we have our verb in its simple present form. The verb is in its simple present form. That means it is in its verb 1 form. It has not changed its shape, or it has not changed its form, so it is in its simple present form. So we have our verb, I go to my grandparents. The receiver of the action here are what? The object is grandparents. So, grandparents' house. So, every Sunday here, this also is an indicator of things that you do repeatedly. This example can also be for the first use of the simple present tense, which is to express habitual actions. The first one is express habitual actions. Things that you do repeatedly, things that you do often is what? Habitual actions. So that is the first way and the most commonly way of using the simple present tense. Let's give a few examples and see. For example, Aster goes to the shop every weekend. Aster goes to the shop every weekend. So, don't forget, we have our subject, Aster, and then we have our verb in its simple present form. So, if you see here, the verb is in its simple present form. We added es here because verbs that end, usually that end with o, take es form. And also because this verb is an irregular verb, so it changes form as well. And the other most important idea that you have to consider here is it added es here because our subject is Aster. That means it is she. So he, she, and it, the third person singulars, he, she, it, they take s or es in their verb when it comes to the simple present tense. If we have, for example, he here, it will be the same. Even if it is it here, it will be the same. The verb will be here, we'll add s or es at the end. But still, we have our subject, and then we have our verb, goes, and then we have our object. That is how we form the simple present tense. And the first one is habitual actions. What other examples can we see here? They play football every afternoon. They play football every afternoon. So again here, it is the same. We have our subject, we have our verb, and we have our object. So, they, again, here is our subject. Play is our verb. If you see here, unlike the first example, the verb here does not add s or es. Why is that? In this case, our subject here is they. It is what? The third person plural. So the third person plural does not take s or es at the end of their verb when it comes to the simple present tense. So if that is the case, our verb is as it is. It does not change. But if, for example, here in our subject, we put he or she or it, and then our verb will add s at the end. Okay, another example. He brushes his teeth every morning. Every morning. So again, it is the same. Or you could say every morning and at night. So these are things this person does every day. These are things these people do a lot during the weekends, in the afternoons, in the mornings. So if it is habitual action, so we use it to express the simple present form, habitual actions. Things that we do a lot. Going to school, going to work, eating, sleeping. These are actions that we do a lot and often in our daily lives. So if that is the case, then they are habitual actions. For example, some people have a habit of reading books before they go to sleep. So if it is habitual actions that you do repeatedly, then we use it to express habitual actions and to tell a simple present tense. Okay, the second way of using the simple present tense is to express general truth. Is to express general truth. Or we could also say, or scientific facts. We use the simple present tense to not only talk about general truth, but also scientific facts. Okay, let's see a few examples and see how it goes. The first example, the most simple way of expressing a general or a truth or a fact. The sky is blue. The sky is blue. So this is what? A most or a general truth that we know to be true. And it is also a fact. Okay, what else can we say? Don't forget, we still have the form of the simple present. We have our subject, and we have our verb, and we have our object. Okay. What else? The sun rises in the east. This is also what? A fact, a scientific fact. It is a general truth. It is something that we know to be true. We know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. This is something that happens every day in our lives. So it is so true, and it is a general truth or fact. It is something that we feel is, or that we know to be so true that we don't even notice it sometimes because it is a fact of life. Okay, another example. The earth rotates around the sun. This is also a scientific fact. A lot of people in the old days used to think that it was the sun that used to rotate around the earth. But now, because of science, because of technology, we know that it is the earth and other planets that rotate around the sun. So these are what? Scientific facts, and these are general truths. So we always use the simple present tense to talk about, first, habitual actions, and second, to express general truths or scientific facts. What about the third way of using the simple present tense? The third way of using the simple present tense is to express near future plans, or to express predetermined future plans. So to express near future plans, plans that are happening in the near future, we use the simple present tense. For example, the exam starts on Monday. This is what? Expressing a near future plan, or in this case, a predetermined future plan. So it has already been determined that the exam will be taking place on Monday. So if that is the case, we use the simple present tense to talk about a near future plan or a predetermined future situation. In this case, for example, like I told you last time, we have our subject, we have our verb, and we have our object. Again, in this verb, we have used, if you remember like the earlier example, like when we said Aster goes, here as well, we have added S in our verb. Why is that? If we say, why is that? The exam refers to it. And as we said earlier, it is the third person singular, and it takes S or ES, depending on the verb, in the last of our verb. So if that is the case, in this case, we have added S here because it takes S, not ES, and the exam is it. Okay, so Monday, again, our object. Okay, so the exam starts on Monday. Okay, what other examples can we give to show a near future plan? Hurry up. Hurry up. Exclamation point. Hurry up. The bus leaves at 3 a.m. The bus leaves at 3 a.m. So this is also telling what? The bus, again. So in our verb, we have what? We have added S. That is how we use the simple present tense when it comes to third person singulars. We add S or ES. So in this case, the bus is it. So we have again added S in our verb. So the bus leaves at 3 a.m. So this is also again showing what? Expressing future, near future plans. Okay. Another example that we could give is the bus leaves for Addis tomorrow. Again, this is something, an action that happens the next day, but it is what? Expressing near future plans. It is a plan. So if that is the case, then, or a predetermined action, then we use the simple present form to talk about it. And the fourth way of using the simple present tense is to express instructions. To express instructions, we use also what? The simple present tense. Let's give an example. For example, close the door. Close the door. So this is where we are using what? We are saying, or we are using instructions here. We are giving instructions. Close the door. And it is in this simple present form. Another example. To start the machine, comma, press the yellow button. Again, here we are giving instructions or commands depending on what we're saying. Another one. Do not disturb the classroom. Do not disturb the classroom. Again, we are giving instructions. And all of these sentences are what? They are not in the simple past form or the future form, but they are in their present and also in their simple present form. Our verbs are what? Start, close, disturb. They are in their simple present form. They are not in their past form. So if that is the case, then we use the simple present to talk about or give or express instructions. This is the fourth way of using the simple present tense. The fifth one is to express present state or condition. or condition. For example, she goes to her class now. She goes to her class now. So we are giving the word now to indicate present, situation, or condition. She attends school in Addis. So this is a present situation that is happening now. If you say she attends or he attends or they attend school in Addis or in Debre Brahan or in Debre Marcos or any kind of place, you are what? Saying at this present moment, at this present condition, these people are attending school or they are going to school in those places. Okay. He feels hungry now. Again, we have a time indicator here, which is now. If we have common time expressions like now, every, we are talking about, if we say every, we're talking about, or often, we're talking about things that happen repeatedly. In this case, if we're using the common time expression now, we're talking about how situations are happening at the present moment, at the moment of speaking, or at the present moment, the present condition. Things are happening now. Okay, so these are the 5 ways or the different ways to use different situations to use the present, the simple present tense. And before we go to exercises or more examples, let us also focus on how to use the simple present tense in times, for example, when we have a negative situation or when we have a question. For example, let's say a negative situation. For example, do not open the windows. This is an instruction. It has both uses. It is, we can express instruction here, and we could also see a negative idea. We said, do not open the window. So it has 2 uses, the sentence. One is to show instruction, like that we talked about earlier. And the second one is to show negation. We are saying do not. So instead of opening the window, we're saying do not do that. Okay, another negative idea that we could talk about is she is not here. Again, we have a negative idea. But in this case, it's not an instruction. It's only negative. We're showing negation of an idea. She is not here. Instead of her being here, she is not here. So we usually have is not here. Okay. What else? They do not see the movie tonight. They do not see the movie tonight, or they do not watch the movie tonight. So we have what? We use the verb to do here, and we also use the negation indicator, which is not. And we have our verb. So usually when we are using negative situations in the simple present tense, we use an auxiliary verb or we use verb to do's to show negation. For example, if we say, they not see the movie tonight? Do you think this is something that is true? It is not, because we don't have the full idea or the full sentence. So we have to use here what? A verb to do to show negation. So that's why we used do not here in this sentence. Okay, this is how you use negation, or this is how you negate a sentence in the simple present tense. What about question? What about if it is a question? If it is a question, for example, do you? Again, we use what? Verb to do. Do you see her often? Do you see her often? Question mark. So, this is what? A simple present tense. A simple present tense sentence. But it is what? Showing or asking a question. So that is how we use the simple present tense during question. Does she love this? So again, we are showing what? Question, but. And from the first and the second, what is the difference? In the first case, we only used do. In the second case, we used does. Why? Because our subject is she. In the first case, our subject was you. So don't forget, whenever we are applying he, she, it in our sentence in the simple present tense, we always change our verbs in es or s form. In this case, since the verb to do comes first as a question, we use does. So does she love this? Does she love this book? Does she love this food? And so on. Okay, another example. Do they go to the stadium today? Do they go to the stadium today? So again, we are what? Using verb to do to ask questions. So that comes first. If it is a question, what comes first? The verb to do, they come first. And also sometimes when it is instructions, the verb to do's or sometimes the verbs, they come first. Okay, this is how we use questions, negatives in the case of the simple present form. Okay, now let's do some exercises. Now let's do some exercises and we'll have some few other explanations. Complete the following sentences with the correct form of the verb. Number 1, they, blank space, not watch TV in the morning. Okay, number 2, he, blank space, play the piano. Number 3, she, blank space, go to the cinema. Number 4, her mother, blank space, cook delicious food. Okay, so I want you to change the verbs or use the verbs in their correct forms. Remember what we talked about earlier, how some verbs, they change their forms or we add some things in some verbs. So I will give you 2 minutes to complete this sentences or these exercises and we'll do it together. Okay, I'm sure you all did a wonderful job and it was easier because we already saw some examples earlier. So let's do it together. The first one, they not watch TV in the morning. So what do we add here? Earlier we said when we are doing negation or when we are negating a sentence in the simple present, we add something. What did we say here? We said we add what? The verb to do's. So they do not watch. They do not watch TV in the morning. So we have added do and we have negated this sentence. Okay, what about the second one? He play the piano. So earlier we said repeatedly that if there is he, she, and it in a sentence in the simple present tense, then we add or we change the verb a little bit by adding s at the end. So he plays the piano. So we have added s, so we have used the correct form of the verb here. Number 3, she, again, like he. She go to the cinema. So we also are going to change go and we're going to add, in this case, we're going to add es because verbs that end with o, they often take es in their verb in the simple present tense. So she goes to the cinema. Her mother cook delicious food. Again, her mother. Mother is what? She again. So she what? Cooks. Yes? Cooks delicious food. That is how we say this sentence, or that's how we change or correct the verb in the simple present tense. I'm sure you all did a wonderful job of answering these correctly. So let's see a few other examples of what to do or not to do in the simple present tense. For example, verbs that end with CH, SH, double Z's, double S's, O's. They take what? They take ES. In their form. Okay? For example, watch. Watch. We have CH. It ends with CH. If that is the case, when we use it in a sentence, we change it to watches. If it is he, she, or it, we use this, okay? What's? What else? SH, for example. Push. Push. It is what? A verb that ends with SH. That is the case, again, we use what? ES. Pushes. Right? ES. Again, we use ES. What about verbs that end, for example, buzz? Yeah, buzz. Buzzes. Again, we use what? ES. Words that end with O. The most common example that we have been using up to this point. Go. It becomes what? Goes. Again, we use ES. Words that end with SS, for example. Guess. It changed to guesses, okay? Again, we have ES. So if you see here, it's all changed to ES. What about verbs? What about verbs that end in Y? Verbs that end in Y, but have a consonant before them. For example, verbs like fly, or verbs like cry, or verbs like try. If you see here, they all end in Y. But before them, there is what? A consonant. A consonant. If that is the case, then they end with IES. They end with IES. For example, flies, right? Cries, tries, again. These are some of the rules that you must follow when you are using some verbs with Ys that end in Ys, and some verbs that ends in these sounds. And also, depending on other most common verbs, they only end with S. So that is the rules that you must follow when you are using the simple present tense. So that is all the rules that you must follow when you are using the simple present tense. And I'm sure you all got a lot of things that you are going to apply in your daily classrooms and also your daily lives. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you again next time. Goodbye.